Picture this. You're standing in total darkness, no roof over your head, and something is moving in the trees behind you. You have no weapon that can stop it, no wall to hide behind, and no light to see it coming. That was every single night for your ancestors, for hundreds of thousands of years. And then, one day, that all changed. Not because someone got braver, not because someone got stronger, because someone learned how to hold a piece of the sun in their hands. Fire is so normal to us now that we forget it's basically magic. You flick a switch, or click a lighter, and there it is. But somewhere back in deep prehistory, a species with no claws, no fangs, and pretty mediocre night vision figured out how to control one of the most dangerous forces in nature. And once they did, everything about being human changed. So how did it actually happen? Let's start with the part almost nobody thinks about. Humans didn't invent fire. Fire already existed. Lightning strikes, volcanic activity, and wildfires had been happening for millions of years before we showed up. What our ancestors actually invented was something much harder, the idea of keeping it. Imagine you're an early hominin and a lightning strike sets a tree on fire nearby. Every instinct in your body says run. Fire kills. Fire burns entire forests to the ground. But at some point, some incredibly curious and frankly reckless individual didn't run. They watched. And they noticed something. The animals were running away from the flames, but toward the fire, right at the edge where it was dying down. There was warmth. There was light. And when the flames finally went out, the ground was littered with something new. Animals that hadn't escaped in time, already cooked. That's not a myth, by the way. Scientists studying ancient campsites believe this is genuinely how it started. Long before anyone could make fire, they were scavenging it, taking a smoldering branch from a wildfire and nursing it, feeding it twigs, keeping it alive like it was a fragile pet that could kill you if you fed it wrong. And keeping a fire alive was a full-time job. There was no lighter in your back pocket. If that flame went out, you might not get another one for months. So early humans built their entire schedules around one non-negotiable rule. Someone is always watching the fire. Always. It's one of the earliest examples of humans organizing themselves around a shared responsibility, and some researchers think this is where cooperation as we know it really started to take shape. But scavenging fire only gets you so far. You're at the mercy of the weather, the mercy of lightning, the mercy of luck. At some point, humans stopped waiting for fire to happen to them and started making it happen on purpose. And this is where it gets genuinely impressive, because making fire from scratch with nothing but rocks, wood, and your own hands is not easy. Go try it sometime. Most people can't do it even knowing exactly how. There were two main methods, and both of them are basically applied physics discovered by trial and error, thousands of years before anyone knew what physics was. The first is friction. Take a wooden stick, spin it rapidly against a wooden base, and the friction generates heat. Enough heat, sustained long enough, and you get an ember. This is the hand drill method. And if you've ever tried it, you know it takes serious stamina, serious technique, and a lot of failed attempts before you get that first tiny wisp of smoke. The second method is percussion. Strike a hard stone like flint against a mineral like pyrite, or later, against steel, and you throw off sparks hot enough to ignite dry material like tinder or fungus. This method is faster once you know what you're doing, but it requires finding the exact right materials, which meant early humans had to understand geology well enough to know which rocks would spark and which ones wouldn't. Now here's the wild part. We don't know exactly which group of humans figured this out first, or exactly when. Evidence of controlled fire use goes back at least 1 million years, maybe further, with sites showing burned bone and ash in patterns that don't happen naturally. But the ability to reliably create fire on demand, rather than just maintain it, likely developed gradually, probably independently, in different populations, across different continents. In other words, this wasn't one light bulb moment. It was more like humanity slowly, painfully, repeatedly earning the same lesson in different corners of the world. And once fire became something humans could actually make, not just guard, the entire trajectory of our species bent in a new direction. Think about what fire actually does to a life that used to revolve around darkness and cold. Suddenly, night stops being pure danger. You can see predators coming instead of just hearing them. You can gather around a shared light source, which some researchers argue is where storytelling itself began, because for the first time, groups had hours of downtime together with nothing to do but talk. Fire also meant cooked food, and cooked food is a much bigger deal than it sounds. Cooking breaks down tough fibers and kills off dangerous bacteria, which means your body spends dramatically less energy digesting it. Some scientists argue that the extra energy freed up by cooked food is part of what allowed the human brain to grow to the size it is today. Your brain burns an enormous amount of energy just to exist. Without the caloric boost from cooked meat and starches, some researchers believe evolution simply wouldn't have had the fuel to build a brain this demanding. Fire also pushed back the predators that used to treat humans as an easy meal. A group of humans with no weapons is vulnerable. A group of humans with a wall of flame between them and a hungry animal is a completely different story. This alone may have let early humans settle in places that would have been too dangerous before, expanding where our species could actually survive. And it gets even crazier when you consider what fire did to human migration. Humans eventually spread into freezing climates, places with brutal winters, places that should have been unsurvivable for a species built for the African savanna. Fire is a big reason that was even possible. Warmth on demand meant humans could push into environments that would otherwise have killed them within a season. So when you really break it down, fire isn't just one invention among many. It's arguably the foundation invention, the one that made almost everything else possible. Bigger brains, safer nights, shared language and storytelling around a shared light, the ability to survive climates our bodies were never designed for. All of it traces back to that first terrifying decision to walk toward the flames instead of away from them. And here's the part that should genuinely mess with your head a little. Every single time you light a candle, start a barbecue, or sit around a campfire with friends, you are recreating one of the most important moments in the entire history of our species. You're doing, almost effortlessly, what took our ancestors possibly hundreds of thousands of years of trial, error, and burnt fingers to figure out. So the next time you flick a lighter without even thinking about it, remember what you're actually holding. Not just a flame, a piece of the exact same discovery that let humanity walk out of the dark and never really go back.